tired, so tired, overtired.
Well, hello again. You're listening to Overtired, and the three of us are back. I'm Christina Warren, and I'm joined, yay, by all three of us, or by my other two co-hosts, Brett Terpstra and Jeff Severns Guntzel. Hey, guys.
Hello.
How many episodes in a row have we had three of us? Is it just two?
I
Because
think
it
this is
feels
just
like a
two.
bunch.
I think this is just
Huh.
two.
Not enough
I
to
have
boast.
I have such a short memory. Like, as far as I'm concerned, we've never missed an episode with all three of us. Like, I don't want to talk too much about work, but that's bitten me at work. The fact that I don't remember like last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to I tend to have a good memory, but sometimes I'll forget certain things. And so in that regard, I have to um write things down, keep a running list of these are things you need to do, these are things you have done, these are things you didn't get to do, whatever.
This is not my gratitude pick, but I've started making liberal use of timing the app. Because it tracks like what document I have open for how long, and I can drag a whole bunch of different stuff like documents, websites, etc. into one task. Because I am currently in a position where I have to report my workday to people, and so I can easily scrap together a daily report, and then it pops up and asks me what I was doing when I was away from my computer, so I can write like surprise visit from the utilities company that took half an hour. Dude showed up at my house, just pulled into the driveway and started banging on shit. And I walked out and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And he said that the meter reader had reported tight wires.
That sounds like an amazing code in like the Cold War. The meter reader has recorded tight wires. Got it. I'll meet you at the place.
So he was pulling on shit, banging shit, and
Just to loosen the wires.
and ultimately he said, and I quote, "I'm not gonna fuck with it."
You just banged on it for a half hour.
Well, he was like seeing like, are these wires tight? And like my power comes in. I have like a rooftop, not an antenna, but like a post that it's all overhead power that comes in from the cables on the street into the top of my house and down in, and that mast, I guess we would call it, has started to lean. It's at about a 15-degree angle, and it is not currently pulling up any roofing tiles. But he said, "You should probably keep an eye on that." And I said, "Oh, it's been in that angle since I moved in, so I never gave it a second thought." But yeah, that's not a great sign.
That's not a great sign.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just shared this thing in our chat. Made me think of this. Not so much about the utility guy like banging on your door and just being like random and like I'm just checking stuff out, and you're like, what the fuck? But in terms of keeping track of time and like
Oh yeah.
busy things, there's so you guys are familiar with Flipper Zero, right?
Well, what's
Yeah.
funny, yes, is you sent this. I looked at it. I'm like, it looks like a flipper, and then saw that it was a flipper device. Got
Yeah.
it.
And
So
I've seen this before.
Yeah, so the Flipper Zero people just launched like 2 days ago, like this new thing called Busy Bar. And it's a little expensive, but it's fully open and hackable and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. But it's basically it's like they're calling it like a productivity multi-tool with like an LED pixel display. And so it can integrate with software both on the desktop where that you write for it, and it includes like an offline API and stuff, JavaScript and Python, so that it can be like an on-air sign, and do shit like that. So like if you're recording a podcast, you could have it like outside your office and it would show like, hey, I'm like recording, but you can also have has like a button on it that you can like press and start and pause to have like a Pomodoro, type of thing. But it can also, I guess, probably work with other types of tools where you're customizing things. So you could like, show like how much time you have left of a task or whatever. I don't necessarily know if this would be useful for you, Brett, but I saw this the other day and
But it's
it
a
got me
fun toy.
thinking. It's a fun toy. Yeah.
For the listeners, I will acknowledge that our topic list this week has 0 items on it. We all showed up
I don't
late.
think people need to know that. It's not like we announce it has
I feel
items on
like it's fair warning that this is going to be just an ADHD conversation with 0 limitations, 0 guidance. We're going with the flow.
I'm going to argue with calling it an ADHD conversation because I think it's just going to be a chat between friends.
Yeah, I think so.
We don't have to. We don't have
It's
to
like
diagnose the
That's like
conversation.
I was
saying
gonna
it's not a
say.
gay wedding, it's just a wedding.
Well, exactly, because like every conversation with like the three of us, it's going to be an ADHD conversation. You should just know that going in. So this is just a convo amongst friends. Like I don't feel like we need to, again, like to Jeff's point, we don't need to diagnose this. We don't need to like pathologize it. Like it's just a fucking convo.
It's a bullshitting podcast, and we'll be bullshitting. Welcome to
So
Overtired.
here's what makes an ADHD conversation to me is my partner is autistic and is all about deep dives. They like to, if a topic comes up that they're interested in, they want to drill down on it, and they want to, like, they could talk about the same thing for the length of the party, like all the way through. And for me, as an ADHD person, I'm much more surface level. Like, I want to, like, a topic reminds me of another topic, reminds me of a personal experience, reminds me of something I wanted to tell somebody. And like, I just kind of skim along the surface. And it's not to say I don't enjoy like depth to things, but my mode of conversation is much more skimming. And I guarantee you that unless Christina goes down a K-hole for some reason, which could happen,
You could.
unless that happens, we're just going to jump around. It's going to be a bunch of topics. And to me, that's
Yeah.
an ADHD conversation versus maybe a normal or autistic conversation.
It's such a limited spectrum of options. Like I am just going to say that I am going to sit in my. I like to talk about a lot of things, and
Mhm.
whether I have a diagnosis or not, that's just me talking about a lot of things. But
I
it's
was gonna
fine. It's
say.
fine. It's fine. Let's do
Say
it.
we have interests. It's fine.
Whatever we call this, let's have it.
Yep. All right. Let's start with mental health corner. Who wants to go first?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
I can kick it off.
All right, kick us off, Brett.
Overall, life is really hard right now. I have found solace in so I've been writing a lorem ipsum generator that is easily adapted to different styles. Like there used to be like a bacon lipsum generator and a hipsum, like a hipster lipsum
Yep.
generator.
I know someone that made one
And
out of Metallica lyrics.
I can do that. I just made a 1984 one this morning. It's
You should make
super
one out of
easy.
transcripts of this podcast.
Oh my
There you
gosh,
go.
yes. I was gonna say, I was like,
But
I was like, I'm gonna make a Taylor of some general. I'm sure someone
Yeah.
already has, but yeah, I should. Yeah.
yeah, like I've been using ChatGPT. I'm just like, give me 100 plural nouns related to this topic, and then like pasting them into the configuration files. And it's a pretty damn good lorem ipsum generator. I'm publishing it as a gem that can be used as a library, but also comes with a binary. And I'm incorporating it into my MD Lipsum project that outputs Markdown lorem ipsum. But I have found solace in that. That's like I wake up at between 2 and 4 in the morning and I code on that. And it's like the only comfortable part of my day. While I'm coding that, I can forget about work. I can forget about the last email from my manager, and it is it's all I have right now.
That's awesome. You caused me to look up a list of lorem ipsum generators, and I'd like to just share a few if
Sure.
that's okay. We've got the Obama ipsum, which fills out a paragraph as that is the true genius of America, a faith in simple dreams, an insistence on small miracles. Okay, that's one. We've got a Busey as in Gary
As in
Busey,
Gary?
uh,
Nice.
which is Busey ipsum dolor sit amet. Have you urinated? Have you drained your bladder? Are you free? Because if you haven't, it will only come out later. I'm giving you some information that your bodily fluids may penetrate your clothing fibers without warning. That's that one.
Wow, that's very thematic.
Let's just pick one more. Please hold on. Please hold on. Let's see. We got Sagan. We got Heisenberg. We've got Tuna Journo. Okay. Anyway, you get it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I will put this list in the
So yeah,
show
and
notes.
I made this tool that I'm making. You can add user dictionaries to it. So anything that
Awesome.
you can compile, you have to there are a bunch of text files, and each one is a part of speech. You got your articles, you got your uh, verbs, your plural verbs, your singular verbs, etc. And you fill in all of those files, and you've created a dictionary that then you can call by its directory name. And this is outside of the gem configuration directory, so it's completely static for the user.
Can
And
I
anyone who makes a good one, I'll add to the default repo.
So the question is, what makes an app cross the line into being a Brett Terpstra app? And the answer is, it starts with the sentence, "I made it so you can add your own blank."
Dude, that is a principle I learned from TextMate. Up until I switched to Mac and started using TextMate, I had never really experienced the idea of extensibility. I had used Homeseer, and I had developed like Visual Basic scripts for home automation, and that was technically extensibility. But this idea that you could actually change the way an app functions and add your own features to an app blew me away. Like Alan Odgaard became my hero because like his whole focus was extensibility. It was the giving power to his admittedly very technical user base. But
Right.
I just got a review on SetApp about basically how it was too complicated to configure marked, and setup only allows a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Oh my
So
God.
it was a thumbs down. And dude, in this review, he listed at least 4 bugs that I wish he had reported through the bug tracker, but they were admittedly real
Well,
bugs.
well,
So
look,
I'm not
look.
mad at him.
Well, no, I mean, and honestly, I'm sorry, we can't expect users to go through official bug reporting channels, like, unless you make it super fucking easy, like, where people know, like, as
Well,
part of
and
onboarding where a bug is.
when you're on setup or the Mac App Store,
Exactly.
it isn't easy
No,
to
it's
give
not.
people that.
No, it's not, and frankly, like, bug reporting is a hard problem to
I mean,
solve, and, like,
Mark,
you should take it any way you can.
if you go to the help menu in Mark, there's a or submit an issue item that will take you directly to the ticket site. But yeah, that's not obvious to your average end user. So yeah, I get it. The most common review I get on SetApp is when I create a new file, it's just a blank page and I can't type into it. Even though the description is very clearly this is a previewer, not an editor.
Right, right. Well,
Like
but the
it's
fact
in the title of
no,
the app.
you're not wrong, but, people don't read. It might have to be one of those things that, like, even as a pop-up, like, if you're getting enough of that, even on the setup version where you can say, "Note,
Yeah,
this
there's a
previous
whole
files."
splash intro screen. There's like a whole first time you launch it, it explains all of this. These people are clearly just canceling out of the splash intro screen and then trying to do what they for some reason assume it should do because they saw the word markdown in it and just plus it's set up. You didn't pay for this shit. Like not directly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, never underestimate how entitled people are about stuff, right? Because in their mind, they're like, well, I pay for setup and everything I get on this should be valuable. Otherwise, I'm going to cancel my, you know what I mean? Like
I
people
don't I
are
don't hate
completely
that
dumb.
idea. I think setup should be a curated
Yeah,
set
I
of
agree with you.
apps that should work and do what they say. You just should read what they say they do. If and this last review that I'm talking about, he clearly knew what Mark did. And like I said, I'm not mad at him. He
No, he
brought up
reported a bunch of bugs,
valid
which is
points.
good. Yeah.
Um and it's useful information. It does bum me out to get negative reviews in general. But yeah,
Where
as far as negative reviews go, this one was legit.
are you able to respond and at least be
Yes.
like, thank you for the, the bug reports.
Yep.
I'd like to.
Yeah. I always wait a day before I respond to a negative review just so I can like absorb and like what I'm telling you right now is what I should reply with. When I first got the review, my response was, yeah, it's a complicated app. Of course it's complex to set up.
Is this a good time to talk about your text expander expansion for responding to people who complain about the app?
Yeah,
Remember
I
that way
feel
back in
like
the day?
this we have no topics. This whole thing could be one weird long mental health corner. I don't care.
Tell the story of that. I don't know if that's been talked about in a long time.
Wait, which one?
You used to have a text expander snippet when you had to respond to somebody writing you and being mean about the app that I think you typed like fuck right off and then it expanded to a very
That's right.
like diplomatic response. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't have that one anymore. I've lost it, but yeah, I had it so that I could type my instantaneous reaction and it would expand to thank you for your feedback.
It's a really, I mean, that's like a kind of a powerful move.
Honestly,
Dude,
We could all use it.
I was gonna say like, so I can't use text expander at work, but I could probably use like the built-in Mac OS thing, or I could find another
yeah.
macro tool to use. We just can't use other people cloud stuff
But
on a.
you can use a Mac.
Yes,
Okay.
can use a Mac, but it's just
You don't
third
have to
party.
use a Chrome PC.
Well,
No.
Chromebook.
No, they I
Chromebook.
mean I mean they would like that, I'm sure, but no, I was able to get a an M4 Pro with 48 gigs of RAM, only 16 inch, only 512 SSD, so that's
Yeah.
My
well
work
well the
computer is a 256 gigabyte Intel 12-inch MacBook Pro.
Wow.
well
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
Vintage.
yeah.
But
Artisanal.
anyway, Christina, you were
No,
saying you
well, no,
couldn't use Text
yeah, I
Expander.
couldn't use text expander, but I could use something similar. And no, but that could be like a useful thing where like sometimes you see stuff and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna type in like my default reaction and it'll expand to something nicer.
Okay.
Like
I
and that would be useful in certain like actually plenty of non-work scenarios too. Like I like that idea of being like, okay, go fuck yourself can become I'm here your feedback and
yeah.
I'll take this into
I
consideration.
I mentioned this last episode, but I shadowed this person who currently administers the AI and data science blog. And no longer, I now administer the AI and data science blog. And they had a Confluence page with all of their response
Yes.
snippets.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it takes that page, I'm not kidding, 20 to 30 seconds to load. So you have to go to your bookmark, you wait 20 to 30 seconds, and then you manually copy the response out of the page, add it to Write, which
Right.
also takes 20 to 30 seconds
But
to
gives
load.
you the time you need to breathe and settle down.
Well,
Yes.
but then and then
Yeah.
you paste it and then you edit it. But with I copied that entire page into text expander
Yep.
snippets, added a bunch of fill-ins so that I could modify like based on the context of the reply. And I feel like this is exactly what text expander and text plays were made
Mhm.
for is customer service replies,
Oh, no,
which is
totally.
essentially what I'm doing.
No, totally. I mean, and I think that's why like text expander like pivoted like to the enterprise market and some of those other things have too, because and consumers always get pissed off about that because they're like, why do I have to pay for a subscription and why do I have to do this and that? And you're like, I mean, I get it. And there are like there's who makes it text, it's not text plays, it's not text expander,
Typinator.
Typinator, which if I were going to use one, probably would be the one that I would be able to use at work, because I could make that work
Because
locally.
there's no cloud.
Right. And so and I have a license for it, and it's a great app. Also, it's lower resources, which sometimes matters. Like, it doesn't matter
That's true.
like on my stuff, but it is lower resources. But like text expander, yeah, you're exactly right. Like, for a customer service scenario where you have like a kind of an internal shared set of snippets that people can edit or just like take definition of and add to, like, you can imagine that if you're in a call center or something, you have to have a tool like that, in your responses. Well, who am I kidding? It's all about to be AI soon. But like, assuming
Hmm.
you still have a call center staffed by, pseudo humans, like, this is totally, whether you're doing email responses or chat or tickets or whatever, like, if you know that you have the top like 30 or 50 most you know common things, like having like that library of stuff that you can just auto insert
Yeah.
with a few keys has to be
I
very useful.
I would like to take this opportunity to say that TextBlaze is a very good product and is very low resource. Like, it doesn't even show up on my activity monitor. It's way down at the bottom, and it has a few it can't expand after white space the way Text Expander can, which has taken a lot of getting used to, and it can't run scripts, which is why I have been developing so many different APIs, like the Markdown Lipsum API, because if I want a lorem ipsum snippet that's truly dynamic, I need it can pull from a web API, but it can't run a script locally. So I just
Interesting.
build web
So you
APIs,
just okay, so basically you're
which
just
is
like,
not accessible to every user.
not at all, not at all, because most users are gonna be like, well, where am I hosting this, or where is this being done, or do I have these API keys in my environment? Yeah.
Yeah,
But like, yeah, because at that point, yeah, is that like a design decision? Do you know, from their like
I
perspective,
think
or
it's I think it's just a shortcoming. Maybe they'll get to it eventually. Um, the expand after spaces thing, I think, is just a short-sighted,
yeah,
um,
that seems like a
design.
programming.
I think it
Yeah.
seems like a design decision, but I think it was short-sighted, whatever it was.
Is there anything about it that you would say it does that Text Expander doesn't that you like?
Um, I had an answer to this question previously, but like when I so Text Expander sponsored my blog for like a decade,
Mm-hmm.
and I would never use anything other than Text Expander because they were so supportive of my work.
Right.
But then like Greg retired, left the company, and when they reevaluated all their sponsorships, I didn't make the cut, and I don't think they're doing many sponsorships at all
No.
these days.
No, I no,
Um,
I think, yeah, because yeah, they used to, sponsor like my podcast back in the day and things like that too, like, and
so
it
then
shifted.
I started exploring like other topics, and a former employee of Text Expander was now working for TextBlaze, and he got me in with a free like enterprise level account. And at that time, I felt it was important to let my readers know why I was even trying out TextBlaze after a decade of evangelizing Text Expander. And I had all the reasons, but I've forgotten them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the resource thing is probably a good one. Like, again, like,
Yeah.
it's not a problem for a lot of people. I think the fact that, yeah, I mean, similar to me, like I use, well, so, and actually, what I could use, because people have it set up, what I could use at work and what I should use at work is Alfred. Just set up Alfred stuff for text expansion, right? Because
Yeah. Well, LaunchBar has text
Launchbar does too.
expansion too,
Yeah, Launchbar
or
is great.
snippets anyway.
Exactly. Like Alfred's allowed, Raycast is allowed, albeit not with
Oh,
the AI stuff.
What about
Um,
Keyboard Maestro, which can expand based on
yes.
regular expressions?
Oh yeah, all that stuff is
That's
allowed.
fucking
The
awesome.
only
Fucking
thing,
keyboard maestro.
yeah, the only thing that is kind of like banned at work is like if it's relying on kind of like a third party cloud, and even then,
Yeah.
like it's not as if they. So the way I have mine configured, it so that is that I have an exception because I'm a package manage user, which means that I use Homebrew, so I don't have to like go through this process of getting apps approved or not approved, like whether they're allowed to run on your system or not. And it's not that heavyweight of a process in comparison to how it could be. Like they actually do it pretty well, but they take security seriously. And like I don't want to ever have anything that would be work related stored in any cloud that is not like the corporate cloud that
Yeah,
we use,
sure.
right? Like so like Obsidian is allowed to be used, but you can't use it like you can't sync with your mobile device
Yeah.
unless you have like a work
What about
issued
like,
Android device.
oh, you could use Google Drive to sync.
Yes. Yes, but it would have to be
Uh,
corporate drive,
yeah.
which the problem with that is that corporate drive then like I couldn't use it on any other computer, but I could use it like
Mm.
just on
So what's
my
the point then?
right,
Okay.
right, exactly. So, well, I mean, the point would be, I guess, that if I needed to set up a new computer or if I used multiple machines, right?
Sure.
So, which I don't. So, but again, that kind of goes back to like, what's the point? So, like, but at GitHub, we didn't have the same level of restrictions because I mean, I think they would have liked to. They're just the IT team's not that big, and they're not going to have the resources to be able to put that stuff in place. But yeah, but I used Typinator, frankly, more for the resource usage stuff than kind of anything, because if I had a lot of stuff running, like I did note that and I pay for Text Expander, I still do out of kind of loyalty, but you know
Me too.
it can be kind of a resource hog, whereas like Typinator
Yeah.
not having that wasn't an issue. And then with the additional thing, I'm like, okay, I know that I'm never going to have this, I'm not syncing across multiple machines, and I don't need a
Holy
cloud
shit.
aspect. Yeah.
You know, so okay, VS Code is a resource hog, but what shocked me last time my computer froze up. And this is a computer with 128 gigabytes of RAM, and it
Right.
froze. And I got the force quit dialog that listed all of the apps that were resource hogs, Flotato, which I use to
Huh.
run like a Facebook SSB, a single site browser.
Right.
So I just have a single Facebook app that is sandboxed from everything else. And it was taking up 128 gigabytes of RAM.
So it clearly has a bug.
W
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a leak, and it was paging out, and it locked up my system. So, negative for Flotato.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts.
Yeah.
When that happens, I always we were talking about like bug reports, and like I try to be like the good user who's like, okay, if I notice that this has happened, like yeah, there's clearly a memory leak or there's some sort of other thing going on, if this is happening, then I usually try to report it, and sometimes it gets responses and sometimes it doesn't, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I will report it to Flotato, even though I'm not sure that app is actively, in development
Developed.
right now.
Yeah, that's always the
But
hard thing about stuff like that. Yeah. And yeah. Um SSBs are actually the hard thing at Google, because obviously we can create progressive web apps, but we
mhm,
can't, at least for work resources. For non-work resources, you can use whatever browser you want. And some people who do testing, which I don't, can do testing on other browsers, right? If like that's what their job is. But like work stuff can only be used in
what
Chrome,
about
like period.
extensions? Are you allowed
There
to add extensions to Chrome?
Yes, yes. Now there are some that are going to be like that are like unilaterally banned, that they like, full on like block, but that's few and far between. And then they do have like a curated Chrome store of stuff that maybe they've
Oh,
altered, right? So
wow.
there might be like versions, like people maintain forks. Sometimes it's part of their job,
Mhm.
sometimes it's just people wanting to do it because they're, committed to it, who will maintain a fork of a popular Chrome extension internally only, right? So that
That's
it
pretty
doesn't
cool.
exfiltrate anything. Yeah, no, I mean, it's weird because like I go through this process of being both frustrated sometimes by the barriers that are set up, even though I understand why they are, and also being insanely impressed at like how much infra like is internally built up, like the fact that like so many internal tools exist, or whether they're recreations of things that exist elsewhere or not, is I've never seen anything like it, like in at least in terms of competence. Like Microsoft has like internal versions of a lot of stuff, but most of it is very similar to the stuff that they sell externally. And GitHub obviously develops GitHub on GitHub, but uses a lot of third-party tools. Google like does a tremendous amount of stuff all internally, and sometimes there are like external versions and sometimes there's not, and you're just like, oh shit, like a lot of people way smarter than me work at this place and maintain
Oh,
this
that's
ecosystem
so
of
much
tools.
cooler than working at Oracle. This episode is sponsored by one of our favorite developers, Rogue Amoeba, makers of powerful audio software for the Mac. They've been developing audio-focused apps for the Mac for over 20 years, going all the way back to OS. So Chris Harold corrected me. I always say iOS apparently. And this time I'm going to get it right. Going all the way back to OS 10.2, which is Jaguar since it's been a while. Their latest versions make it a snap to get started with no need to restart your Mac. I personally love SoundSource and Loopback and use them all the time. SoundSource puts per app audio controls, including the ability to apply effects right in your menu bar. And Loopback is an amazing tool for routing audio signals and working with multiple audio devices. And I would be remiss not to praise Audio Hijack, the all-purpose tool for recording and routing audio on your Mac.
All
Woo,
praise,
so
Audio
good.
Hijack.
It can do just about anything with application, audio, or microphone input, and has a ton of automation possibilities. Learn more about all of Rogue Amoeba's software at macaudio.com/overtired. That's macaudio.com/overtired. Listeners of Overtired can save 20% off any purchase through the end of May with the coupon code OVERTIRED. Just go to macaudio.com/overtired and use the coupon code OVERTIRED.
Yes, you should.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Fucking A. All right, so we're half an hour in and we're still on what is technically my mental health corner. So how are you guys doing?
Is
Jeff,
that
go
you
ahead.
abdicating your mental health corner? Is that what
I'm
we call
done.
it? Abdicating. I'm doing good. It's it's sunny and warm. It makes everything go away for a minute. But there isn't too much to go away. Yeah, I'm doing well. I had a really nice. I feel like I always report this when it happens, but I had a nice trip. I took my youngest son to spend a couple days alone with his older brother at college. He got to stay in his dorm because there was an empty bed there and stuff. And so
That's
it was really
awesome.
It was really cool to be able to do that. And he went to some classes and they went and saw a movie and hung out and who knows what else. I mean, I actually don't think there was much else, but it's not my business anyhow. So it was really sweet. And just nice to have that time. It's like an 11-hour drive to where my son goes to college. And I've found that those are just the best times with my kids because nothing's forced. You're not asking them to answer a question at the end of the day that, they just don't want to talk about school, whatever it is. It's like, you can just sit there. I always let them DJ the whole 11 hours, and you can just kind of sit there and let things come up. And I find that to be an amazing way to just be with either of them. So that's always just I just feel really good after that and kind of carry that with me. Other thing I just realized, this is so dumb, but I don't read ever. I don't read books ever. I love to read books, but I just cannot.
Right.
I can't read them when I'm laying down in bed because I fall asleep right away. And I had a book club. We had this book club for a while. I've probably talked about that. Was kind of amazing because the whole premise was to read the books that you kind of were interested in, that you feel like if it was 1940, you would have read it in high school. But you don't have any reason to read it. It's how we read War and Peace. It's how I read Don Quixote, all these books, Moby Dick, whatever. And it was an amazing thing, but it just kind of fell apart for reasons that groups fall apart. But this morning I woke up and I'm like, so obviously been reading so much news and everything, all the obvious stuff that we're all going through and how much space it takes up in our head. And I don't nobody has to read Don Quixote, but I highly recommend reading the prologue because it's fucking amazing. And so I just read the prologue because I get a kick out of it, and then like the very beginning of the setup of Don Quixote, which is also hilarious. And it was not only delightful to read and laugh at something that definitely had nothing to do with this moment. I mean, you can make stretches and metaphors or whatever, um, but what happened was then I stopped reading and I started my day. I took my kid to work, like whatever, but like my head was filled with the book. Like my head was not filled with the tariffs and everything else. And that was like the first time for a long time. Like I just had like echoes of impressions from just this very short bit I read this morning. And I was like, huh, I think I just may have discovered an important durability tool for me in this day. So that was really nice. Felt really good. Felt like an
That's pretty cool.
unburdening. Yeah, because I was like, I'm not gonna even look at the news for a couple days, which I think is a good thing to do. I don't think there's any reason not
There's
to
not.
look at the news for a couple days. You're not a
No.
bad advocate. You're not a bad carer about the rights of people in the world. You're not a bad anything. It's just
Nope.
something you need to do. And I often can't do it. I'm
Right.
not obsessive news reader, but like I do. Well, I guess, I mean, like the way I read news is I do open the New York Times app a few times a day and I tell my dingus to tell me the news, even though sometimes that means she tells me about the history of the Jews.
Right.
I do ask her to tell me the news a few times a day, but I'm not like crazy obsessive about it. But man, it's a constant flow. It's like constantly flowing through my bloodstream. So anyway, that was a funny revelation to have, but it's also just a very like nowadays revelation to have. And so again, I will say, read the prologue to Don Quixote. If you love novels, like at all, if you love reading fiction, like you have never read a prologue, and you won't believe that this was written in like the fucking 1600s or whatever, the 1700s, I forget. So that was nice. That and the sun today has got me feeling pretty good.
I love that.
Jeff, do you subscribe to Means TV?
I don't know what that is.
It's we'll call it an anti-capitalist network.
Okay.
They just added some anarchist content, but it's mostly socialist content. And they have a Means Daily News that is, if you want to get like news that includes like successes in labor movements, instead of just like what the tariffs are going to do to the economy.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to get news.
So you're one of these guys that likes good news. See, I'm
I
not
need
attracted. I'm not
it.
even attracted to
need
good news.
it.
I can't even say.
I'm exactly like you, Jeff. Like it doesn't, like, I don't actually, like, in some ways, like, it's cool if it's there, but like I don't want to curate that way personally. Like
Yeah.
I like my news addiction, and it's gotten a lot better, and I've had to do it because it's been, and sorry if I took over your mental health corner.
No, that's I'm good.
Is that, like, for my own mental health, I've had to disconnect and disengage with news. And even though I haven't been a reporter as my full-time job for a long time now, like it took years and years. Like I've said this on the pod before. Like it was January 6th that was like the moment that kind of broke me, because it was I realized one of the first big, like, massive, like, mass casualty kind of like real time like scenario. Well, not mass casualty, but like, you know what I mean? Like one of those like felt at the time like world changing sort
There
of
were
scenarios.
things that died that day.
Right,
Couple
exactly.
people
Like,
and a lot of things died.
right. And I had to process it like not a reporter,
Yeah.
which was really fucked for me, because I had become so desensitized to having to process that sort of stuff in real time. And you think about it as, okay, what are the stories that we're assigning? What angles are we doing? How are we getting the news out? What are the important facts? What is real? What is not? What is gossip? Like you handle the trauma, frankly, of it all in a different way.
Yeah.
And I had to like process it like a regular person. And that really fucked me. But it was also kind of a good reminder for me to be like, okay, since this is not the sort of stuff that you live with day in and day out anymore, you don't have to be part of this all the time. And I know that for you, it's different, because sometimes you have to be connected to stuff for your job. and you
I
have to be
don't
aware of these
anymore.
things. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but you have, but you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like even
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
your research, right? There might be things you're
Right.
like, okay, I need to be plugged in on this. And so I have
Yeah.
to be aware. And certainly for my job now, like I need to be plugged in with like AI announcements and stuff. And like that can obviously go into lots of complicated, different ways to process things, but it's not the same as like the world is ending, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or democracy is in shambles and like uh, the terrible stuff that's happening around us. And so for my own like mental health, I fully agree with you. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you anything if you're like, you know what? I don't want to fucking look at this right now.
Because you're not helping anybody by
You're
reading the
not.
news. There are things you can do out of having read the news that you can do to help people. It actually doesn't help anybody that you're reading the news.
Well, and the thing is I think that there's a difference, right? Like, there's a difference between being like obstinately and willfully like refusing to acknowledge what's happening around you and
Right.
refusing to do it and actively engaging in it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
I feel like it's a problem if you just, put your fingers in your ears and you're like, I don't see it, I don't know it, it's not happening,
Yeah.
right? Like I feel like that can actually be problematic. And if people need to do that for short-term periods, you do you. But I feel like long-term that is actually a problem. People don't acknowledge the reality around them and the suffering and the bad things. Like I feel like that's a problem. But there's a difference between being like, I know how bad things are and I need to actively read every New York Times or Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or
Exactly.
whatever
Right.
headline,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like
there's that it's possible to be aware of all the bad things that are happening without dwelling on it
yes.
in an obsessive way.
Totally, totally. And
Yeah.
like this is one of the reasons why like I'm not really posting about politics or anything else anymore on social media. And I think some people think that it's because like, it's directives from bosses or whatever. No, that's not it. Although I'm sure that they would prefer that I not speak about political things, right? And fair enough. But like that's not what it is. It's frankly that at this stage of the things that are happening, like I've had kind of a come to Jesus moment with myself where I'm like, my opinion doesn't matter and I'm not helping anybody by like, you know what I mean? Like in some cases it does. I look back at like my past actions and I don't regret them or anything, but I'm like, okay, what were you accomplishing?
Yeah.
And at a certain point it does sometimes feel like and people again, like other people can process and can comment and can do whatever they want, however they want to do it. And I won't judge that. Like I really do my best not to judge that. But like for me, it's just kind of a thing where I'm like, okay, like what am I accomplishing by commenting and continuing to reamplify how bad this shit is? Like, is
Right.
this making me feel any better? Is this doing anything for me? And if it is, great, right? For some people, like that could be a way of getting through some of the trauma and getting through some of the stuff would just be to talk about how bad it is. And I respect that. I just feel like, we've gone through a really difficult last 8 years and now things are just a point where I'm like, I don't have it in me to do it anymore. I just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot about like seasons in life too. Like our lives have seasons, like they have long seasons, but then there are little short seasons. And like I often can't help but think back to like a season of my life where I was willing to get like shot or blown up and almost did for my
Right.
convictions and in order to care about a thing, an issue, a people, whatever. And I think that was great. And I'm proud of myself for I'm proud of younger me for having done that. But like what I've settled into as an old man in this moment, and I learned this from the George Floyd uprising, where I sort of encoded it into my brain, is like I am very comfortable knowing that I will see an opportunity at some point for a way I can help, and I will help.
Hmm.
And it maybe take me longer than other people. It may take me longer than some people think it should, but there is no too long, because at some point you come into the game and the people that came in the first wave have burned out, and you do need a
Yep.
second wave. You do need
You
new people.
do.
You always need people. And if I I mean, if I waited until I was 72 to do something meaningful again, it will be meaningful that I've done it. And like one of the things I still think back to a lot um is like, so during the uprisings, like the first night when everyone was outside the police precinct, the one that ultimately burned down and was abandoned, I went out there because I felt like I had to, and it was fucking scary. Like
Hmm.
everything was off balance. Like, you know, everybody on both sides was behaving in a way, and this isn't a judgment, this is just what happens to humans when something is that elevated, because what happened was so incredibly fucked. Everybody was just, it was, you know, it's one of those things, like any protest, and especially once the National Guard was here, the idea you look and see is a million protesters and a 100, you know, National Guard, but actually what's happening here, even if it's basically under control, is the line between chaos and great harm and whatever state you're looking at now is just one person's decision. And that decision could be, I threw a bottle, and instead of hitting an officer's or a National Guards person's helmet, it hit their face, and that National Guards person then reacted as however they were always going to react when they got their face hit, right, with a bottle or whatever. Like, it's that fine of a line. It's true for things going well too, right? Like, it's true for things that inspire movements, whatever. It's often one person's decision. It's in the context of a movement and all these things, but it's often one person makes one little decision. You may never know what that person, who that person was, or what that decision was. Anyway, in all of that and that chaos, and it was scary, and you know, you'd have the windows open and you'd smell the smoke and hear the, you know, non-lethal rounds that, you know, would take people's eyes out but wouldn't kill them. I got a call from a friend who was working as a medic at the protests every night, and she knew I had a workshop, and she said, "Hey, do you have respirators?" And I was like, "Do I?" And so what she did is, on her way down to meet up with the medics before that night's stuff really ramped up, she came over, and like it was a James Bond movie with the guy that has all the special weapons, I had laid out every kind of respirator on a picnic table. And she came by and was able to go, this one, this one, this one. And then she brought it down, and they were tear gassing the shit out of people at this point. She brought it down, and a handful of medics had these respirators and were able to help because someone knew to ask me. I knew that was an opportunity in a way I could help, and it felt really meaningful. And I think that in these times, it can be so easy to beat yourself up because you're not doing this or that, or to judge actions, whatever it is. But like, the only way movements or change happens is everyone kind of finds their place. And we've talked about this a million times. For me, the place was never holding a sign. I was at protests, but I could never hold a sign. I just couldn't do it. I could be a body there. I can't hold a sign. I'm too much like, well, that just doesn't say everything. I mean, well, you know, I just don't know.
Oh my God.
Not to mention copy editing signs, but
Right.
but like, the last thing I'll say about this, because it was something you triggered for me, Christina, when you were talking about like either having to or also being able to process something not as a journalist. There's such a crystal clear point at which I knew I was not a journalist anymore. And it's true, because I haven't been one since then. But it was awesome. So I had been laid off from public radio, and public radio is like so funny because it's so clearly like liberal and left leaning, but it works so hard to just, even in how voices are, to just seem very reasonable, whatever else. And I was like, I both appreciate that, and it drives me fucking crazy.
Same.
Yeah, it mostly drives me crazy. But anyway, there was a march commemorating the murder of Philando Castile here, who was killed by a police officer. And this march was destined to make its way down an entrance ramp to Highway 94 and to shut it down. And I was there. This was still the point at which, when I attended protests, I put a long skinny notebook in my back pocket, just because I don't know why. Like, partly that helped me because I would just write things down for myself, because it's how I've always been. But also sometimes I knew I was going to see other journalists. So, what the hell? But this time I just had one because I wanted to be able to document, because those are
Right.
those are great notebooks to put in your hand and document. And I'm walking, and it becomes clear people are starting to go down to 94. And I'm not really a like lead the way and shut down the freeway guy, but I totally will go and watch, but stand in the middle and recognize that I am both a witness and a participant in that sense.
Right.
And so the whole march starts like veering down the entrance ramp. And at like the sort of pivot point where it's very clear who's going down and who's not, I run into two journalists I know, and one of them had never met me. And the one goes, "Hey, Jeff." And he says to the other one, "Hey, this is Jeff Guntzel. You know, he used to work for NPR and all these things, whatever." The guy's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to meet you." And they go, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, just checking it out. And I just kind of proceeded down to 94 and participated in the shutdown of the freeway. And that felt amazing. I was just like, just checking it out. And
The
but I'm also walking down here, as you can see, and I have no press pass. So I was like, all right,
Right.
I'm not a journalist anymore, and that's awesome. Not that I couldn't still be a journalist. I want to be really clear about that.
Right.
But like that was just like I think I want to be on the other side of this now.
Which honestly is kind of freeing in a sense. Like I don't know like what
Yeah.
the like rules and requirements were for the places you worked, but that was always a really hard thing for me. Like I remember covering like some of the protests like in 2015 and stuff, and like I had to be really careful. Like I had like I would cover them, but I had to be removed in a certain sense, right? And
Yeah.
obviously you can't be like I would be shouting along with folks, and like if I needed to make an argument I could, that like, well, I need to fit in so that people don't like look at you weird or whatever. And you're documenting things in like a reasonable way, and you go and you like have like the lawyer's numbers like written on your like arm and stuff, in
Yeah.
case you get arrested and all that, um which never happened, but you never know what it's going to be like. But like there did always feel like there had to be like this separation to a certain sense. Like even though I frequently, what would happen is I would go just to go myself, and then I would find out that I was the only reporter from my publication there,
Yeah.
and then I'd be like, well, fuck, well, now I can't just be here for me. Now I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
be like less involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm no longer
Seeing
observing.
the news value,
Well,
just so you know, I'm here now and I can report back.
right. Well, right. And so it'd be almost the inverse. It'd be like I went at first like to maybe be involved and like, oh, I'm separate from this. This isn't like my main beat. This is me as a citizen. And then it becomes, okay, now I have to shift him to being an observer, right?
Yeah.
And so I imagine, like, I don't know like what the lines were for you, that there has to be something like, even though it's weirder to not have the press badge and whatnot, there's also something freeing about being like, well, no, I can participate however I see fit, and I don't
Yeah.
have to like hold up like those lines of like journalistic like integrity or ambiguity or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I always and even when I was a journalist, the thing I think I always considered myself secretly was a participant observer in research terms. Cause like I knew that whether I was there as a reporter or not, if I'm a body in the crowd, I'm a body in the crowd.
Right.
And that felt meaningful to me. But
the best article I read in the last week was about how to make lock boxes. Are you familiar with lock boxes,
yes, I
Jeff?
grew up in the 90s.
Yeah. Um, like tools to lock yourself to objects or to other people to impede anything from the downing of a tree to traffic on a busy street. And this article fascinated me because it talked about how to like build it with carabiners so you could quick release if you needed to run, but no cop could get their arm in. How to add multiple midline bolts so that the cops wouldn't know which ones to cut to get you out of it. How to reinforce it with fucking Kevlar. it was funny. It was funny, but also it felt pertinent because I also can't carry signs.
Yeah.
I won't do it because it feels like going to protests in general feels somewhat futile to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Yeah.
average protest doesn't make any difference at all. A well-behaved, stay within the fenced area protest doesn't make a difference. But a protest that is obtrusive can make a difference, can make a statement. And to me, like the idea of lock boxes of really like fucking shit up, that I can get into.
I will say one thing about protests. I never feel particularly great at like very kind of mainstream feeling protests, but if they don't happen, then the slide goes faster. Like it's
Fair enough.
important that they
Yeah.
happen, but I'm with you. Like I'm rarely at a protest and really inspired, but I am inspired by the fact that this is still a
Yeah.
community
See, I
that
want
is,
to be a part. I want to be a part of the crew that enables the protest to be fully what it can be. I want to be the person that stops traffic. I want to be the person that distracts the cops. I want to be the person that makes it possible for that protest peacefully to be all it can be.
Yeah.
Being the protester doesn't appeal to me. I used to carry a lot of signs in my early 20s. late teens. And it 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 grew on me that it was futile, like we weren't making a difference. But the black bloc, as much as protesters often fear what the black bloc does, often provides cover and ability to your protest.
Oh
Yeah.
man, don't get me started on Black Bloc.
Tell
We'll
me.
just have a fight.
No, it's okay.
I think that it's literally masquerading as something more meaningful than regular protest. Like, I have watched so many Black Bloc people. I've known them. There are people in my life I care about who are Black Bloc. I know people that have been, there are people in my life who are prosecuted by other people in my life for being Black Bloc, and I support them 1,000%. Like someone's indicted, like I know what side I'm on. I have experienced Black Bloc in my life and in my long life as an activist as spoiled kids who are looking for a fix of some sort,
Mhm.
That's
and
fair.
Yep.
That's fair.
easy cover for provocateurs,
No,
like
I
too easy
yes.
cover.
No, I fully
But
agree with you.
but I would say that the primary complaint about the black bloc is that they cause property damage.
Oh yeah, that's not a
And
complaint of mine.
yeah, in
I mean,
my
it is.
opinion,
It's like I think that
property is not people.
it's true. I will say, actually, I'm going to take my thing back. I have seen the property damage and looked at it and gone, you actually didn't help. You only hurt at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
so
I
you
was gonna
broke a
say
window of that small business over here, which happened a ton here. Like,
yeah, I
that's
was
cool.
gonna
That probably
say
felt good, but it didn't help anything. And if anything, it ratchets up. This is what I don't like. Doing things like that while masked, to me, I'm not going to say it's like cowardice, because I
I
understand
am.
there's a whole philosophy. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, before I get to that, right? Like,
Sure.
to me, and this is what I find powerful about nonviolent action, and I might very specifically say nonviolent action because people think of nonviolence as passivity, is
And it's
that
not. Yeah.
when you hide and when you then do things hidden, it creates a sort of tension and a ramping up and a sort of calculus in a crowd that I have only ever seen lead to near disaster for everybody.
Right.
Whereas when you are locking yourself up to a tree or whatever else and you have no mask on and you are saying, this is a risk I've decided to take and I'm doing it. Masks are a tricky thing now because of surveillance and
Right.
AI and everything. But like, I do not, it's like property damage. Yeah. If I'm not like, oh my God, my heart hurts because this capitalist entity got its window broken or something. But I've only experienced it as a threat to myself as an activist doing serious work. It's the only way I've ever experienced it, is that now everything is ratcheted up a little bit. And now we're in the land of, you do that just a little differently than maybe would have happened, and all of a sudden there's shooting or there's something else. Like
Well, this is what
you
I
have
was gonna
taken a
say.
gamble for everybody when you do that.
Well, I was gonna say, because that's what that's my problem with it. Like, I'm not a fan of property damage, and it's not because I care so much about the property. Although I think you make a great point about, yeah, there are small businesses and individuals and people like who have their cars messed up, who like might not have the type of insurance and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there are like people who didn't do anything, and you're fucking up their stuff because, okay, great, made you feel better, but what did it do? But my biggest thing is exactly what you said, that second part, which is that I think leads to two things. One, I think it embodies people sometimes, and I agree with this also with like sometimes the black box type of thing, is that it black box whatever, is that it like can enable and encourage, this comes with property damage too, people who aren't involved and aren't part of the whole thing to just take part in the melee, and then the movement gets tainted by that, right? Like, you see that a lot with looting. Like, people who loot stuff are usually not like the people who were part of the protest, but the people who came around and were like, well, we might as well, like if this stuff is here for free for all, and then everyone gets tagged by it. And then the secondary thing is that, yeah, this now creates an environment where law enforcement can go in and can take action because they can make a claim that things were at risk, or that things were getting dangerous to a certain degree, and it can go into a much more
Is
like
is
just everything.
pacifying law enforcement your goal, though?
Well, I think that I don't really care about pacifying law enforcement. I'm saying I don't want
Yeah, I
people to
didn't
get
hear that as
shot.
pacifying law
I don't
enforcement.
want people to get shot and killed. And if you are going there and you're going with the understanding that, yeah, I'm going to be willing to get shot and killed for my protest, all power to you. But I
Yeah,
don't think that's how
been
most
there.
people are doing things. And I don't think, and I think a lot of times some of your most vocal people are to your point, like what you said earlier, Jeff, are the fucking like spoiled like kids who don't have any experience, who have places to go back to, who aren't even there for the convictions. They're just there for like the surface stuff. It's like it's the fucking Occupy Wall Street bullshit. It's the fucking like Chaz and Chop bullshit. And it doesn't accomplish anything. Like we had a lot of people who genuinely died like in Chop and Chaz, and fuck law enforcement. I'm not here for any of that. But like when you create a kind of an environment that people try to portray as being like this, like great kind of idyllic community environment, and it wasn't that, and then 3 people got shot and died, like fuck off. Like like it wasn't a good environment. Like it wasn't some sort of like utopia sort of thing. It was a bunch of people who might have had some good intentions, and I supported them. Like we gave like water, and we were like in support of what they were trying to do, and then it just morphed into this thing that wasn't. And I don't think it was helpful, and I think that it hurt a lot of things more ultimately than it helped. I'm fully in favor of people if they want to fight the system that way, and if they want to do it, if they feel like violence is the only way to get it across, maybe sometimes it is, but I don't have to participate in that, and I don't necessarily think that always furthers what the goals are. But I want to be very clear, and I don't have any problems with people who are this. I'm not an anarchist, and I have absolutely no desire to be an anarchist. That is not my bag. If that's how people want to associate and do things, all power to you. You have that right. That is not my position or like my affinity. So.
This is fun.
So Christina, how are you?
Wait, I just want to point out what people can't see is that through all this conversation, Brett is leaned back, pretty well in his chair, probably as far as it goes, and he has a beautiful, beautiful furry cat up to his neck. And he's just slowly stroking the cat's neck, and the cat is so happy. And you don't even look like a mobster; you look like something far nicer. But
a little bit like a mobster.
That's a layer in this conversation right now that nobody is.
I'm a very nice anarchist.
No, and
there's lots of very nice anarchists.
And again, like I want to be very clear. Like I respect like that is like the stuff that you follow and like support. Like I really do. That's just not my position. But like I don't have any problem with people who do. That's just not like how I choose to express my beliefs. But I have no problem with people who do that, and I feel like we need people like that who are out there. I'm just not one of them. Like,
but it's also don't conflate anarchists with black bloc either.
Oh, I'm not.
Not you. I'm talking to Brett. Like I feel like I have a lot of lovely anarchists in my life, and some of them would.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like people.
It's not fair to anarchism to
the
put
people
those
with
together.
the lock boxes, the people without the mask. Those are often anarchists.
Yes.
Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not saying like you have to be black bloc.
Yeah, totally. I know you're not. Yeah. What does the cat say?
No, and to be clear, like I feel like people, like if you're willing to put your own face and your own like name and stuff on top of it, like that is brave as fucking hell. And I think that's amazing, right? Like if you're willing to actually take the consequences to it, like that to me is incredible.
And what's tricky now is like I understand, and I can hear someone saying as they're listening or like banging their head against their I don't know what, if you're listening to this on your phone, that like there are reasons for people to wear masks.
1000%.
So it's not mask wearing that I think either of us is coming down on. It's the sort of like, I am specifically, I'll be honest, thinking of a kind of mostly young white activist who is masking up and breaking shit as kind of what I have in mind. And I also recognize that I am probably overly narrow in how I describe it, partly because I have a bodily response to it, having watched that stuff draw people who have come to a protest without being prepared to get hurt, having watched people in that position get drawn into the risk of being hurt, including children in strollers, because of what, if I'm being really cruel and ungracious, because of what feels like daddy issues. Not anarchism. I mean the black bloc guys.
That's fair.
I look at them like, oh yeah, that's a daddy issue right there. That's not anti-capitalist.
Right. And
that's fair.
Yeah.
Dads can suck, man.
No, and totally, like people, there are very valid reasons to have masks and stuff, but I feel like sometimes but I will still say even then, like it's one of those things where I'm like, I really respect like there was this employee protest at at Microsoft last week, like, on the freaking 50th anniversary, which is ballsy. And look, I wouldn't have done it, and I don't think it accomplished anything. But I respect the hell out of the people who did that under their own faces and under their own names. And and I'm
If you
like,
can, yeah.
you know what I mean? Well, I mean, look, if you're gonna, interrupt like a major event or whatever, and you're doing it for those reasons, and you're gonna do it for the things you claim, like, I'm sorry, I think you do need to do that with your own face and with your own name. I think that if you do it otherwise, I think it's fucking cowardly. Because it's not like anybody was at risk for getting, shot or anything like that. Wasn't a risk there. If you're gonna do that stuff and you know that you're gonna get fired, and of course you're gonna get fired, like, that's really brave, but do that under your name and your face. I think, again, I wouldn't have done that, and I don't think it accomplished anything, but I really respect that the people who did it like openly. You know what I mean? Like, that's bravery. That's bravery that I certainly don't have. I mean, I don't know. I guess if it was something I had strong enough convictions about, maybe, right? But like, I would never pretend that like I have it in me. Like, I'm too risk averse to do a lot of that type of stuff. But I respect people we do need people who will do that. We do.
Yeah. Yeah. We need all types for sure. Brett and Christina, just because Brett brought up the 90s and the sort of direct action days, the beginning of the lockbox era in our generation, I have put a link to young child Jeffy interviewing Noam Chomsky in the WTO protest era.
Oh, wow.
What year?
A link in the show notes. I think I was what is it, like 99 or something?
Yeah,
So
that was
a
a big
young
one.
child.
I saw Noam Chomsky at the U of M in 99.
Did you?
Yeah.
I got to go to his office and interview him.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome. And there's even a great scene at the end when he pulls down a couple of photos of his children and grandchildren that I really
All right.
love. So,
Awesome.
and he says the word Pokemon, which was a goal of mine because I talked to a friend who was his literary agent. I'm like, look, I'm interviewing Noam Chomsky. 1, I'm terrified. 2, give me something that I can ask him about that isn't going to be in every other Noam Chomsky interview, which, as you remember, was like 1 a day if you were counting. And he's like, he's fascinated with Pokemon and the naming of it and the linguistics of it. I was like, got it, thanks. So I did get him to say Pokemon at one point,
which is freaking awesome. Honestly, like, I would be so proud of myself. Be like, I got him to say Pokemon. Like,
I wasn't even like, by the end, I wasn't even like, I interviewed Noam Chomsky. I'm like, I got Noam Chomsky to say Pokemon.
Which is
that was the same year I met Jello Biafra.
Awesome. Oh man, my son just discovered Jello Biafra and just listened to one of his spoken word albums.
Yeah.
No, first Dead Kennedys. And then because he's in a punk rock band. And then I was like, have you heard of spoken word? He's like, well, yeah, I was just wondering. I don't really like poems. I was like, oh, brother, these are not poems. You're going to love it.
I don't remember what I said to Jello Biafra. I just remember, like, this was at Little Tijuana's before it was like
everybody
a
in the 90s, if you had just left a punk rock show and you needed food, it didn't matter if you were high or not high, straight edge or not, you were going to Little Tijuana's and you were in love with one of the waitresses or waiters.
$1 pitchers of beer. I dated most of those waitresses.
Oh no!
But I don't remember what I said to him, but his reply was, "Don't be an asshole." And I wore that as a badge of honor for so long.
Jello Biafra, who's almost definitely an asshole, but I love him to death. Awesome, Christina. We got to roll around.
Yeah, no, and I already kind of talked about mine, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
You did,
yeah, I mean, so
make sure it's there.
Yeah, no, we're good. I have one of the ways, like, talking about like disconnecting from like the news and stuff is like I've been watching a lot more TV, and because TV has been good the last little bit. Like we had Severance, which obviously ended, was great. We had White Lotus, which I very much enjoyed. I don't think it landed the ending.
But it was still so fun.
But it was still so fun.
Intense.
Exactly. Yeah. And the drama now around that season, that Jason Isaacs just being like a shit stirrer and just like giving these interviews where he's just making it worse. And you know that he knows it because he's like, I read everything about this. And I'm like, wow, man, who would have thought that, like, the guy that plays the dad, like the doped up dad. Also, he's British and he did such a great Southern accent. Like,
and he's Daddy Malfoy.
Yeah.
Which I did. It took me halfway through the season to be like, why do I know this fucking face?
Yes, you're right. Daddy Malfoy. But like, he did such a fucking good job like playing like the rich Southern guy, and I know
Amazing.
the rich Southern guy incredibly well, and like he fucking like nailed it,
Yeah.
like get the accent, everything. But then he's just being such a shit stirrer, so I'm like I'm here for it. The Last of Us season 2
Oh God,
premieres
I can't
this
wait.
week. I'm looking forward to that. Hacks just came back. That's one of my favorite shows. I don't know if either of you
Awesome.
have watched that, but
No.
it's a I think you both would really like it. It's on HBO Max, whatever. It stars Gene Smart and Hannah Einbender, and it is uh, created and written by two of the people who were heavily involved with Broad City.
Mm.
And
Oh, wow.
and it's but it's and I love Broad City. Like I'm a Broad City like all the
Mhm.
way, because it was my, I wasn't single, but like every other aspect helped, really did relate a lot to my life at that time. It is a much better show. It is it's and it has a broader appeal. So it's about this woman who is a Las Vegas like stand-up comedian. Like she's in this universe. I guess she maybe would be kind of like an Elaine Stitch type, although I guess younger, but like very famous, well known. Has like a show like on the strip at one of the big casinos. Is also a QVC person, and they're wanting to kind of kick her out. And there's this Gen Z bisexual writer from Los Angeles who got in trouble because of some stuff that she tweeted. And they share an agent, and the agent is like, you have to like write, she should write jokes for you. And they have kind of a, love hate relationship with one another. And it's going into its fourth season, and the show is shifted a lot since then, but it's a comedy, and it's won Emmys for being a comedy. But even though it's like a half hour, like there's a lot of heart to it, and it's one of those things where it's almost like it's like a comedy that is kind of a drama underneath in some ways, but the acting is so good, and it's very funny. And season 4 already is really good, so watching that.
Awesome.
And yeah, and like I said, I'm looking forward to Last of Us season 2, like very here for that.
So here for it.
Yeah,
I'm almost done rewatching season 1.
same. I'm trying to like
Ugh.
remind myself, and I've played the game, so like I know the whole
I
kind of
have not. My
thing.
kids have, but I've not played the second game, so I don't know anything about what's about to happen, which is very exciting. Although I kind of bet it's amazing to have played the game and then watched the show.
Yeah, no, the adaptation is so good. Like I think I said this last year. I was more impressed by the Fallout adaptation because they
Mm,
had so much less to work with. Like they had to capture the vibes of the
yeah.
game, and they did
Yeah.
perfectly. Like speaking of White Lotus and Walton Goggins, like he was great on Fallout. But like, and I loved Fallout for that reason. But The Last of Us is like taking what in my opinion is like one of like the best like video games like ever, and turning that
Hmm.
into TV. And then in some ways, like there were some episodes in the first season that like transcended the source material, which
Yeah.
you never see with adaptations.
Yeah.
And I mean, very rarely do, right? Like The Godfather would be one of them, right? But like
Yeah.
it's like,
Definitely better than the book.
well, I mean, I think the book is good, but like the movie is like other level, and then like the sequel is like other level, right?
Yeah.
But like you know, it's rare that you have things that transcend the source material, and like it definitely did. So,
Dudes, my godson is a kid in the next season of Fallout.
oh, that's awesome.
And it's just he's in some scenes here and there, but he got to be in one scene that was just him and an actor that is not yet known to be in this season, and he didn't know who it was going to be, but the actor takes off his helmet and reveals himself in this scene, and just say it was like, holy fuck, yeah. It was
That's
Nice.
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool.
He
That's
showed me all
awesome.
these scenes of getting his makeup set up and like all this amazing stuff. It was so cool.
That
He's
has
just
to be
like
awesome.
he's about 10. He's like a little guy.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
that's
amazing.
fantastic for him.
Oh shit, Danny Glamour. Did I get the age of my godson wrong? It's Danny Glamour's son. I take it. I apologize.
Friend of the
if I
show,
did.
Danny Glamour, who we haven't heard from for a
He's
a
gonna
while.
be in my house.
Oh,
He listens to every episode. He like basically live tweets, but on messaging to me when he's listening to the episodes.
Nice. I love that.
all right.
The other, and I just will mention it real quickly. Neither of you have seen it, but I will recommend it. The Pit just ended its first season.
Looks good.
It's really good. So a lot of people have made comparisons to ER, which is completely fair because it stars Noah Wiley as an ER doctor. But this time they're not in Chicago, they're in Pittsburgh. Hence like the name is kind of a double entendre because like they call the pit like where like the ER is, and then it's with 2 T's because Pittsburgh. And the executive producer is John Wells, who was one of the main people behind ER and also The West Wing, and the creator was a longtime writer on ER. But the shows, other than both being in emergency rooms, like they're different, right? Like there are obviously it's 30 years, after ER, so a lot has changed in emergency medicine and stuff, but it's a really good show, and the conceit I think is really clever, and this is how they were able to have it to be a relatively low budget, like probably 4.5 million an episode or so, which in these days is fairly low budget, is that they basically do an hour from each shift. So like it starts at like 8 p.m. and then like or like 7 a.m. or something, and then like ends like like midnight or whatever. So it's like 15 hours of a whole shift in the ER. So
Jesus.
what's cool about that is that you see like some of the same patients like from episode to episode, because that's one of the underlying things is that there are 40 million, people without health insurance and who use the ER as their primary doctor. And so you have people who are like waiting all day, and then you have like big, events happen and like other stuff. And like, doctors kind of come in and off shifts, although most of them are throughout the whole time. It's really good. It's really well done. The acting is incredible. Like the acting is so good and the writing is really good. And it's already been renewed for a second season. They've already committed. They're like, we're going to do this once a year. It's kind of like traditional TV. So like they're already starting to write the next season, and it's going to be back in January. And like that I also appreciate, because it's like 15 episodes is almost like a network TV length series, right? Like it's certainly better than what we get in streaming for the most part. And B, for them to be like, no, this can be something you can count on, to come back every year versus having to wait like however many years it's been since The Last of Us or whatever,
Yeah. That's all. I should probably get to that. By the way, my godson is 13.
Okay.
12. Sorry, 12.
Okay. So
but was a rock star long before he
Did you
ended
just
up
text
on
Danny
Fallout.
Lammer?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Well, you know what? In fairness to you, like if he's 12, he's probably playing 10.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I meant.
No,
I was like, these are Hollywood rules.
Yeah,
definitely Hollywood rules. Last TV recommendation. Well, one, my wife and I are watching season 2 of Bad Sisters, which is just an awesome show.
That's so good.
So good. But we also are just finishing up. It took us forever to get to it, but season 3 of Sex Lives of College Girls, which by the way, when it's up, when my kids pass, I feel a little whatever, but I love, it's a Mindy Kaling is behind that show, but I love how after school special that show is.
Oh, totally.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, no, totally. Although I will say, like, after Renee Rapp left, like I knew it wasn't getting renewed. I was like, your star is gone. Like
I miss her so much.
Yeah. It didn't work.
But anyway, it's a fun show. It's stupid as hell.
So dumb, but I like it.
But that's what makes it like an after school special, but with sex.
Yep.
Like it's so awesome. Anyway.
Yeah.
Also, Timothée Chalamet's sister could not be more different than Timothée Chalamet, and it's fucking amazing. Better than Bob Dylan.
We're an hour and 15 in. Do you guys still want to do a gratitude?
Yeah.
I got time.
All right.
We're just hanging out having a conversation, Brett.
Also,
we're just having a regular non-diagnosed
conversation.
A conversation.
Yeah. All right. I will kick off gratitude. Mine is a well-known app among, I think, our listeners and you guys. Carabiner. It is an app that at as close to system level as you can get on Mac OS will change the way your keys behave. And I have for a long time only used Carabiner to create my hyperkey, which is when you hold down caps lock and it functions as shift, control, alt or option and command all as one key. And I've done a lot of stuff with that. But I recently got into like going a little crazy with it. And my favorite current keyboard assignment is I can hold down
here we fucking go.
my I can hold down semicolon with my right pinky, which is right where it is on the home row, and
While
then
doing a Kegel.
HIJK become I'm sorry, JIKL. I tried it with HJKL for a while, so I'm confused. But JIKL become arrow keys for me. So I just hold my pinky down and then use my 3 remaining
Ooh.
fingers
Ooh,
to move
sassy.
my cursor around. And with carabiner, that still functions with like command and option, so I can do and shift, so I can do selections and everything with just my right hand never leaving the home row. So carabiner is my pick.
I'd like to claim a little bit of my time back. I don't know. Is that what they say
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
Senate
yeah.
floor?
I'd like to reclaim my time.
I'd like to give a joke I made there a little more space, and contextualize it, which is that for anybody that doesn't already know, and I'm sure all you know, Brett has some of the craziest fucking keyboard shortcuts ever, and can somehow remember them despite claiming or not being able to remember last week. And I just suggested that one element of your keyboard shortcut is that you have to be doing Kegels while you press these buttons. And I want to point out that men should also do Kegels, is what I understand. Which is
Exercising the PC muscle can give you way stronger orgasms.
oh, well, thank you, sponsor. That was not even why I was told it was good. It's incontinence as you get older that is actually the thing. But um, anyway, just wanted to throw that out, get that joke back in there, make a little space for it. And
Well done.
yeah,
Well
Brett, I'm
done.
sure most of the listeners of Overtired know about carabiner because of you as of like 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah,
Because you have been
I
pitching
assume
that one
so.
hard for so long. You're the reason I had a hyper key. If you know what I'm saying.
So it's currently carabiner elements, but
Okay.
like back when I started using it 13, 14 years ago, it was carabiner.
So it's like Coke
Um,
Light,
yeah. So carabiner elements is
Coke
actually my
Zero.
pick for the week. But
Okay.
Nice.
I'm done.
Nice.
All right. Christina?
Yeah, so mine, and I okay, I feel bad saying this because um regular people can't use it right now, although they are starting to issue out invites, which is how I got it. But no, but I mention it just because I think they're going to start rolling it out more actively. So Arc, the browser company, the company behind Arc, they have a new AI focused browser that they are calling DIA, and it is WebKit based, which is interesting. Rather than, I'm not really sure why WebKit, because I don't really think that there is an advantage to WebKit
Hmm.
at all. Um,
Over like
oh,
Chromium.
yeah,
Chromium?
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gonna use it, I would just use Blink. Like, if you're gonna use, like, in my opinion, I don't. There's conclusively not an improvement in battery life in WebKit versus
Sure.
Chromium. There's way less of an extension stuff. Whatever. Regardless, I mean, I don't have a problem with WebKit. I just don't necessarily see the point.
Sure.
But it's still an interesting browser that basically is like AI centric. So like you kind of have like um an always open kind of like window view where you can, you know, ask stuff with like chat gpt or other AI assistants and whatnot, and then also ask it about different things that you're doing and researching. And so it's a cool idea. Diabrowser.com is where they have information about it. I'll see if I can get an invite for YouTube, but
Yeah, I'm interested.
it's there are a lot of really interesting we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years, like people taking on different riffs of the web browser. And I am a little bit concerned about what this means for Arc. I have a feeling that it means that Arc is essentially just in
Yeah, I've
maintenance
gotten that
mode.
impression.
I've been getting that
Yeah.
impression too, which sucks because I really like Arc
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah, it is
lot.
very cool. Very cool.
But maybe I think that Dia, they're trying to basically be a little bit more broad, because the only problem with Arc is that once you really get into it, like, I think it's awesome, but the learning curve and like the time that you have to spend with it is significant. Like for me, even I will say that, like, I had to spend a lot of time with Arc to really have it click for me. And I don't think that most people are willing to go through that time, and I don't blame them. Dia, just in the little bit of time I've been using it, I guess since like Monday, on my personal devices, and it's pretty cool. It is Apple Silicon only right now. I hope that they will bring it to you know, Intel Macs, because there are still lots of them out there, and I would like to use it on my iMac. But it's kind of a cool concept, and there's some really neat ideas and stuff that they're doing. So Dia is my pick.
Cool.
Awesome. My, I, because I am not a Linux guy, this Linux pick I'm about to make, I will not go on and on about. But I moved into an operations director role at my organization, and we're a like member-owned cooperative with like 7 member owners and just 1 employee who's not a member. So it's a small group, but like we've just never, in the history of kind of leadership of the organization, there's never been a point where like there's a lot of thought about security or how we might be at risk, or how our use of the company's email might, if something goes wrong, how that could impact us, various things. I've played with Kali Linux, which is where I'm getting with this, over the years, like many times, just because I find the toolbox insane. And for anybody that doesn't know, it's like it's a distro of Linux that is just preloaded with every like quote unquote ethical and not ethical hacker tool you can imagine. I mean, it's definitely like getting into a tank and being like, well, this one lets me drive, but that one really fucks people up. But I've been doing something that, like, I remember I went to a journalism, like a computer journalist nerd conference years ago, and there was a New York Times journalist there, and she did a whole session called Dox Yourself. And the idea was like, yeah, go see all the different ways you're out there, you are exposed, whatever it is. And so I mostly do what they call, like open source intelligence, OSINT, is what I'm playing with Kali Linux, where it's just like simple things that there have been services for, like type in a username and see how many accounts exist out there. And honestly, I really recommend people doing that for themselves, because it's like, if you're our age and you've been on the internet this long, you're like, oh fuck, that one too. And then there's a whole, like, the CLI for Have I Been Pwned is amazing, and you can use all the functions on the website, but I can like write a script with all of our members on it and check it, and you can of course check passwords, all that stuff. And so I've basically been working on like learning all the various tools for open source intelligence, and then writing a script that just checks every once in a while for all of our members and my family members and some friends, and then allows me to sort of like send them information, so it can be like, hey, just so you know, this is where you exist, this is whatever. And it's great. It's a step up from what I did a long time ago, which was part of actually the Dox Yourself thing, which is I set up a Google alert for pretty much everybody in my family, every colleague, every whatever else, so that if someone shows up on the internet in a way that they didn't mean to, you see it right away. But anyway, I mean, I'm not a Linux guy at all, like, but I really love getting into an immersive world like that. And Kali Linux is just like, if you're interested even a little bit, definitely takes some like having a tutorial by your side, but like it's pretty enlightening and amazing to just dip in even just the open source intelligence tools and get a sense of what you can know about yourself online, but what can be known about you. It's pretty powerful and like humbling.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think Kali is an awesome distribution. It's one of those that you can, like, if you want to try it out, like you can run it in a VM, or you can put it on a USB thumb drive and like boot
I
from
have mine
it.
on a Raspberry Pi, and I
I was gonna
SSH through
say,
Tailscale.
I was gonna say, Raspberry Pi is great for it. Another thing I would say, and I don't know how many listeners this will apply to, because we know our listenership, but because it can be so useful for the scenarios that you described, Jeff. I often use it within WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux, because they actually have a version that they've, like a distro, so to speak, that you can install for WSL. They've even, like, were one of the first ones to become part of like the modern WSL infra. And so they even have like a whole way where you can even launch like the GUI apps from within Windows. So if you want, and what's nice about that, and I think especially think about like sysadmin types or people who might be doing these things, is that, like, okay, you have a Windows machine, you run some of these tools, you can also have it integrate with some of like maybe your Windows files and other stuff to pipe through without having to do like the normal VM type of thing,
that's cool.
or SSH thing. So
that's really cool.
So yeah, just throwing that out there, because I used to sometimes communicate with that team when I would talk with the WSL folks, and Kali was always, like, in my opinion, like one of like the best like WSL distros, like more specific ones, other than like like the Ubuntu or Fedora or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's great too because most of the tools, what's nice is the whole menu's there. It's like going to a Denny's, but you can go have a hamburger at home. Like
Yep,
you can go onto your Mac and get into Homebrew and
totally.
install most of these tools, but like
Yes.
it's a nice place to just be immersed in it and be
Well,
like, what's this do? What's this do?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I think it's so great to have it, like, on a Raspberry Pi or on a thumb drive
Yeah.
or, like, a WSL, like, instance because, yeah, to your point, you can have this installed basically in any Linux distro or on Mac OS, but, like, you don't have to worry about that. It's all one place,
Yeah.
and that makes it really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, it's 2 o'clock here, and I haven't had lunch, and I have to pee so bad. So it has been
Aw.
so good talking to you guys. Thank
Likewise.
you. But I
Yeah.
think we
Good to
should
talk.
call it.
Yeah.
Get some pee.
Get some pee.
Get
The
some pee.
system is going down now.